Well, hello, this is Lori Stratton from Grove Studios with the Stratton Setlist podcast. And today my guest is Christian Ohly of Ohly, a Detroit indie folk singer-songwriter. So Christian, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. This is an awesome place. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. It's fun to kind of hear about what you've been up to. And I just wanted to start off to say, how have you been doing throughout the pandemic? What have you been doing besides working on material?
I've been doing okay. Yeah, it's been crazy as it was for everybody, but I've enjoying the nice spring weather that's coming.
Yes.
And let's see, like last March and April, I was kind of on a roll with music and had some good shows booked,
Right.
like a lot of musicians.
Right.
And then they all got canceled. So I was writing a lot last March, April, May, and then things kind of opened up last summer.
Yep.
So I wasn't writing as much last summer. I was kind of busier with other things. And then I've just been working remote as well. But yeah, I've been doing okay for the most part.
Good. I'm glad to hear that because I know, like I said, it was not been the easiest year for a lot of us in different ways. So
Yeah.
But I'm glad to hear you had some productive, creative time out of it because I know for some people, they either hit the wall or they were able to actually produce a lot. So
Yeah.
so yeah. But I just want to start with like learn a little bit more about your background, like how your musical journey started. So what was it like growing up in Rochester Hills, and like at what age did you start learning guitar and other instruments?
Um, I started playing piano when I was probably 5 or 6 or 7. I played a lot by ear, and my mom kept pushing piano lessons, but I really hated them, like so many kids.
Yeah.
And so many people said, when you're 18 or 19 or 20, you're gonna wish you took more lessons. So I think had piano till I was 14, and then I finally convinced my mom to let me quit. But I was just in a musical family, so I'm the youngest of 6 kids.
Okay.
My parents were in a traveling choir in college, and they were both very musical. So there was a bunch of music in my house growing up. My parents are both singers. My siblings played instruments as well. So I played piano since I was young, and then played guitar. I think I learned guitar when I was 15 or 16. Yeah.
And then with and what artists were you kind of listening to at that time as you like did piano and then went to guitar? Was there anyone that was kind of really inspiring you throughout that part of the journey?
I think when I was little, I was just listening to like the punk rock that my brothers were listening to.
Right.
Um, I I remember car rides on the way to school with my brother, who was a junior or senior in first grade, or when I was in first grade, he was a junior or senior, and just like Blink-182, stuff like that,
Yeah.
and having those random burnt CDs of theirs. But then when I started uh, listening to more music, kind of for myself, rather than just what they put in front of me, I was listening to a lot of Abet Brothers and The Head and the Heart and
Yep.
Mumford and Sons, Lumineers.
Yep.
So those bands were a huge inspiration and still are on me. My first concert was when I was 16, and it was The Head and the Heart.
That's a great one.
Yeah, it was at Royal Oak. You might have been there.
I probably was because
Yeah.
I've been to a million other shows.
Yeah. And I went home and I was like, man, I want to learn some guitar. So my brother and my dad played. All my brothers play. So my brother helped me learn some Head and the Heart songs, and I just started playing chords and reading tabs since then.
Nice.
Mhm.
And so yeah, and I can hear a lot of the Avett Brothers influence in your music, and as well as the Head and the Heart, especially. So, and I've been fans of, like I said, of both of those bands for years. So, very cool. Now, did you ever get inspired by any older school folk like Bob Dylan or like Simon and Garfunkel, anything along those lines, or was it more like the newer folk bands of like the last 10 years or so that have really kind of been up and coming in the scene?
My dad always played James Taylor and Simon and Garfunkel when we were young. So even like before me and my
Nice.
siblings were
Yeah,
growing up,
yeah.
before we went to bed, he was playing songs like that. So I think I was like probably innately inspired by them,
Yeah, yeah.
but not until the last year or two was I really listened to classic artists, singer-songwriters like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Cat Stevens was another one.
Another good
But
one.
yeah, I think 2 years ago, I got really into Van Morrison,
Yep.
and then kind of started going down that road of, oh man, these guys really started this genre.
Yeah,
Cat
exactly.
Stevens, James Taylor, Van Morrison. So definitely more recently, I wished I want to be able to write songs that just have as much power and
Yes.
as those.
Well, I think you're headed that way. A lot of your songs have a lot of power from what I've heard.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so let's talk about like so with kind of learning guitar, learning piano, being inspired by a lot of bands, and then eventually writing your self-titled EP in 2017. And if I recall, you telling me at one point you had started writing those songs in your dorm room. Was it at Jackson College, if I
Yeah,
recall?
it
Yeah.
was.
So what was that process like? Like you were in school and were you just kind of on your own? And was it like were you writing songs before college, or was that really the time you started to get into that?
Yeah, I think it was the fall semester of my freshman year. And yeah, I brought my guitar to school, had my own room, which was really nice. And then just kind of thought, oh man, maybe I can try this writing thing. And a few really bad songs came out, really, really corny songs about some girl. But then I just kind of kept at it, and I was playing at coffee shops, and kind of started to play my own songs there. And I enjoyed it and wanted to get better at music. Yeah, that's when I started hanging out with John Katona a lot,
Yes.
who I mentioned to you before, and you remember that name. But he really introduced me to songwriting and recording music. Or he kind of introduced me to songwriting more intentionally, or
Yes.
some strategies, and then recording music. So that's when I think I got better and gained a little more understanding.
Now he kind of helped with your debut EP. He kind of helped with like beats and drumming, if I recall, right? So he kind of gave it more that rhythm, I would say, to the tracks. Or like, how did he help shape those when you were working with him?
Yeah, so we didn't have any. I think we only used sample drums on that
Okay.
EP. So I would play a kick and he would record it, and then I'd play a snare drum, and then occasionally I'd play both of them at the same time. But I
Yeah.
mean, I had no idea what he was doing. I had no idea what I was doing,
Gotcha.
and sometimes what he was doing. But then we really, yeah, just crafted the drums. He would do it from behind the computer, but he always prides himself in using real sounds, not digital sounds. So it
Yes.
was cool.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of those songs I think have a lot of feeling to them, a lot of emotion, and I can hear that in the singing and in the music. So I think that kind of lays a really good foundation for your music. If
Hmm.
I when I think back to that versus what you have coming out with your new
Yeah.
album, which we'll get to.
Thanks. Yeah.
But at what point then did you go from so at some point then you went to Hawaii, right? So you went to Hilo and studied
Yeah.
at the University of Hawaii. So how did you get from Jackson to Hawaii? That's quite a journey.
I went to Jackson to play soccer over there.
Okay.
So I was there for a year and a half, and then I transferred back home and went to OCC
Okay.
in Auburn Hills.
Yep.
And then I got my associates and transferred out to University of Hawaii. Um, I went out there because my family has Hawaiian ancestry.
Okay.
So
Nice. Yeah.
I had to show them my birth certificate, my mom's, my grandpa's, and then I qualified for in-state tuition.
Oh wow. Oh my gosh. That's terrific.
So it was pretty affordable. I think I saved more money than I would have if I went to Oakland University.
Amazing. And in Hawaii of all places.
Yeah,
I don't blame you.
So it was a dream. Looking back at it, it was a lot of fun. And then if I'm getting away from the question, just let me
No,
know.
you're good. You're good.
But then so I went there and ended up getting to play soccer for 2 years, which was a lot of fun. I met a guy at church whose name was Alden
Yes.
Arakaki,
Yes.
who's the other producer. Kind of ended up playing my first band show with him at a bar over there, which was a lot of fun because I played some shows. I played some sets back home just at coffee shops solo, and then I
Yes.
did a funny show. It was after hours at Desert Oasis, and that was with me, a pianist, a guitarist, and then John Katona played
Nice.
these drum sounds on the drum machine. So it was kind of an interesting folk set. But then yeah, I went over to Hawaii and got to play some shows over there.
That's cool.
And that was when I played with a drummer and a bassist and kind of got that experience for the first time.
Yeah, yeah. Now, were you doing like coffee show circuits then, or were you doing more like college shows, or what was kind of what were the performances like over in Hawaii when you had that opportunity?
It's a super musical culture over there.
Yes.
Like probably one of the most. But I played at a restaurant called Hilo Burger Joint. That was pretty fun. It was just another coffee shop type gig, but it was at a
Gotcha.
restaurant.
Yeah, cool.
And it paid pretty good, which was cool. And then there was that bar called Hilo Tavern, and it was a dive bar with a cool patio. but they had live music at the first month every Friday. So they were always looking for a band. So I kind of said, hey, do you guys need anybody? And I kind of dragged these guys along that didn't really know what they were getting into. But I think those are my only 2 gigs that I remember out there. Yeah, there were 2 places.
Well, it's not all bad to have like Hawaii on your like roster of places you perform. Not a lot of us get over there. I have been to the Big Island, but I've been to Kona, but not Hilo. So I never made it to Hilo, but just to Kona. So yeah.
Yeah, Kona's really beautiful. That's the desert side, so it's usually sunny there. Hilo has a lot of rain.
Yeah, yes, exactly. But we had gone. My husband and I had gone to Hawaii years ago for our anniversary, and that was like our last stop that we did at the time, and we went to the national park there and had a great time as well. Watch around on the volcano. So
if you make it back, try and get to Hilo Burger Joint or Hilo Tavern. You can think that I played on those stages.
Yes. Once we're all fully vaccinated, I'm looking forward to trialing again. Yeah. And Hawaii, I would definitely go back.
Yeah.
So awesome. Absolutely. Well, and kind of with that Hawaii experience, so like when you were there, did you continue to write music at the time as you were in school, or what was like your creative outlet at that time like?
Yeah, I think probably half the songs on this new record were written over there.
Okay.
And it was just different because I was playing in church regularly around some really great musicians, and I learned a lot from Alden about just band performances and playing guitar. So I think my musician kind of level went up. So I wrote some songs over there, and I think I wrote some of my favorite songs over there. It was inspirational living over there.
It's hard not to be with all the scenery and like you said, being a musical culture and just all the history and the fact that you have heritage there. Yeah. I mean, to me, it would be very inspiring if I were over there. That's, to have that connection.
Yeah, and then just in college, like so much is going on and so many people. I met some friends. I had a lot of guys on the soccer team who were from all over the world, England and South America.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Just kind of seeing their backgrounds, stuff that just guys go through in college. Some things that I tried to write about.
And then at some point when you finished, you obviously came back over here. So did you ever think about staying over in Hawaii long term after school, or had you always wanted to come back home?
I didn't really see staying long term happening. I graduated in May and moved back in August.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, during that summer, I worked over there. It was a fun summer. Had a car finally. I hadn't had a car the past 2 years, so
that's enough right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and have you had a chance, like, do you keep in touch with any of your friends over that are still in Hawaii, or have you had any chance to go back since then? Obviously not with pandemic,
back.
But yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But I do still keep in touch with people. This record was recorded that summer, June of 2019.
Okay.
And now it's coming close to June of 2021, so almost 2 years. But so I've been keeping in touch with Alden because he produced it.
Yes.
About plans to release it and sending mixes back and forth. And then I do have definitely some really dear friends over there who I hope to keep in touch with.
Well, and I think this is kind of a good way to kind of talk about the new album Landlines, which I know will come out April 30th, which will be here before we know it.
Yeah.
So like as we were talking about, it's been quite the creative journey for writing songs over 2 years, And if I understand, this album has kind of, again, a full band sound, but you've got kind of like strings and you've got piano and clarinet, which I think really add a nice dimension to the sound. What was it like watching that album evolve over the last couple of years, with like recording in Hawaii with Alden and then doing some other stuff back here with Tom Mihalis, if I understand. So kind of what was it like during that 2-year journey to kind of see it take shape and change?
Yeah, I started recording it, I think, in 2017. So that was back in Detroit at Tom's house in Ferndale.
Okay.
We had some songs, and I was learning and he was learning. So we kind of got some structures down. Then I went away, came back for Christmas break, worked on it some more. So it was kind of like a rough period of trying to hash stuff out. And I was searching for a drummer for like a year, just trying to figure out somebody who could play on it. I was trying to find anyone. So we had a couple songs down here, and we didn't end up completely finishing them until 2019 after I graduated. And then I didn't start recording with Alden in Hawaii until summer of 2019.
Okay.
I was gonna do like, oh, maybe I'll do a 3-song EP with Tom and a 3-song EP with
Yes.
Alden, and then something funny that happened regarding the strings. There's this amazing cellist over there who's from Arkansas or something. His name was Michael Cripps, and I was working, and the cellist is gonna drive over to the studio, which was like 2 hours, and I was like, hey, can you record this, or do you think I should try and get off work? And he was like, I can do it. I think I know what you want. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And then I went over to his house later, and I was like, hey, man, you missed the one part that I really wanted cello on.
Yeah.
So he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I can try and make it digitally, like move some parts around. But then I had written a song a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh man, well, maybe if I have the song, I think I could use cello. I'll drive over there if I can bring some of your studio gear, and then I'll try and make this more of an album. It's 7 songs, so I don't really know if it's an album or a EP or mini album, but
whatever you want to call
yeah.
it. Yeah.
So it was funny because then I ended up getting a whole other song, which was actually Light.
Oh yeah,
so that's the
okay.
single.
Yeah.
It has cello on it, so it ended up working out.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm a big fan of strings on albums, and I like when people put on different instruments like clarinet.
Yeah.
Like something you don't always hear, and it had those kind of classical textures or undertones. I think really add a whole like different. I'd say almost a different feeling or emotion I get from the songs when I hear that. So I liked hearing that addition on Landlines.
Yeah, Alden's brother Lane played clarinet. I was listening to Andy Schaff a lot. Are you familiar with him? He has clarinet on a couple records, and it's so beautiful.
It is very nice.
Just as a vibe and feeling to it.
Yes.
So I was like, hey, can you do something like this? And then he tried it out, and then that's that song University.
Yes.
Has just some cool pad textures from that piano and clarinet. So I was really happy with how it turned out.
Clarinet kind of has like a timeless feel to a song when I hear it. I grew up playing alto saxophone, which is still in the woodwind family, but it's you hear saxes on saxes on songs a lot, but not so much clarinet.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, at least in the pop rock world.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I was listening to Landline, so thank you for sharing with me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
There's so many themes I heard throughout it, like growth, nostalgia, like loss, connection, like love, and just self-reflection, kind of against like this dreamy, folky, classical, like cinematic landscape. That's how I felt when I was listening to it. Were those types of themes across the 7 songs kind of intentional, or is that just kind of like what came out as you were working on those different tracks for the album?
Yeah, I think it was. I wanted this to be more of a like cohesive package than the first release. That first release was the first songs I ever wrote and ever recorded, and ever tried to play with other people and work on with other people. So yeah, John really did a good job, but I was just much younger much younger as person and musically.
Sure.
So I wanted to kind of make this sound more like one package, and definitely got closer to where I wanted it to be. But yeah, with John for the first EP, I was like, oh, let's do strings. He was like, let's do it. And some people don't really know how to record strings or don't have that vision, but anything I wanted to do to make it interesting, he was up for, which was awesome. So I guess I felt like I wasn't limited for that first release to just let's do a acoustic EP or like a indie rock EP with just 3 or 4 piece band. So then I kind of tried to find some people, and Alden was like, yeah, we can try and do strings and make it cinematic, like you said.
Yes.
And then I think like the storytelling and themes like that were what was going on and what I tried to depict in the lyrics. And then that comes back to some inspiration, like the Avett Brothers and Wesley Schultz from the Lumineers, just amazing storytellers.
Absolutely, yeah. No, both of those bands have incredible stories to tell in their music, and that's what I enjoyed about a lot of the lyrics. Like, you have a lot of vivid imagery. Yeah. I could tell, like singing about crabgrass, things like that, like things that really hit, like the Midwest wind, things like that really hit me as I'm listening. Because as a writer, I tell people this all the time, I really appreciate lyrics. And the more vivid they are and the more they help set the scene in my mind, the more I appreciate them as you're telling the story through a song. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, thanks. One time I was working with John in the first couple months, and we were at his house, and I was like, oh, I have this song, and he said, try not to say how you feel, but show how you feel.
Yes.
So I think one of the lyrics I had was like, well, let's go over there. And then he was like, what about let's go to Stony Creek Metro Park or something like that.
Yes. Yes.
So I always try to be more vivid, and then you kind of see that in these great songwriters, the detail they're able to include.
Yeah, and it can be, and it doesn't have to be very, it doesn't have to be very involved. It can just be references, that people will get if they're from the area or they understand like maybe what your story is in that particular track. So yeah. But I wanted to talk about one of the tracks from it, which is Used to Be, and I really enjoyed that one, and I think that's a great one to open the whole album. And I just kind of like the feel when I listen to that one. I'm sensing a lot of like nostalgia and talking about what it was like to grow up, because you talk about like a lot of your siblings have kids and all that, if I recall from the song. Was it like those what was it like, that family life you said as the youngest of 6? That kind of inspired that track, and looking back as you get older, or like how did that whole story for Used to Be come about?
My family is really close, and I'm super thankful for that. But I guess when I was young, I just kind of kept watching people go away. And I like really clinged on to that, because somebody would graduate from high school, go to college, or move out of the house, get married. So that definitely had a big inspiration, and then we're all just real close. So I was kind of stuck on that, and wasn't really. Or I guess the other thing was I was moving away, so I moved away from home, and then some other friends went on to different colleges, and I kind of kept telling myself like, oh, that's not okay. Like I really got to try and stay in touch. This friendship isn't gonna stay close like I want it to be. But then probably like the past 6 months or a year, I kind of realized like people are gonna move on and go to different places in their life, and that's okay. But you'll hear a lot of the feeling before I kind of had peace on this,
I understand.
This record.
Right. And one of the lines that really stuck with me is "staying near or leaving here." And I thought that like just hearing that in the track encapsulated that story for me as I was listening to it.
Yeah, that was definitely one thing that was going on in my head the last few years.
Yeah, I understand. Well, it'd be great to hear you perform that song.
Sure. I'll grab a sip real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is Used to Be?
Yes.
First?
Yep,
okay.
yep.
All my siblings have kids now. Sometimes I feel left out. I used to watch Friends with them before I understood the jokes on the show. But now I watch it alone. The trampoline, the landline yells, the jailbreak, the leaves each fall. I moved away, it took me 2 weeks to dial, might go back on the phone. Time zones, I'm far from home. What a selfish, sappy song. What a privileged complaint to have. I should write about my parents and how they never split away from us, and I definitely should give more. I have wasted so much time down here, but I wish my day-to-day was as simple as it used to be. 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 As it used
Very nice. I think that's a great way to open landlines. And what I like about that is your vocals are like so soulful, like so much feeling into that. I can almost just as I listen, I can almost just feel like you kind of grasping with that situation, like just the way it comes out.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, and I like the idea. So what made you want to call the album Landlines? Like did you grow up with the landline phone? Because I did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did.
I still have. Well, I actually have I still have like a landline kind of phone. Like I couldn't say it's not traditional, but like internet phone.
Okay.
I'm still old school that way.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some kids now, I don't think will say they grew up with a landline.
Not
which
at
is
all.
Crazy. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of nostalgia on the album.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to think of a cool term that would stand out and somebody might remember, and I feel like nobody's really saying the word landline anymore, but
They're not.
I think I hope most people know what it is.
They will. They will. And some of your promos with like the phones kind of hanging outside, I think cover that pretty well.
Yeah, some people said, "Oh, now it makes sense."
I can't, at my age, like I grew up with like rotary dial phones, so that's how
Yeah.
old I am, So just to give you, and then I remember getting touch tone phone in high school and thought that was like a big deal. So,
Yeah.
and then by the time I had a bag phone in college, I thought, wow, this is like a cell phone now, but it was like a big bag I carried, almost like it felt like a
Wow.
mini briefcase or something. Yeah, so they've come a long way.
Yeah, I haven't
But
heard of those before.
No, you're not missing out. Trust me. The reception was horrible. But it was like when I was in college, that was like the only option. My parents were like, "If you're gonna be out riding around, we're getting you a bag phone." And I said, "Okay."
Yeah, the other one of those lyrics says the landline yells, and
Yes.
that was kind of like nobody's gonna answer the phone and then scream for their brother or
Exactly.
or their parent anymore. Phone's for you. They just
Or get on or like sneak and listen to your calls, like maybe
Yeah.
your siblings might have. But if you were the youngest one, you probably didn't have that problem at home
Yeah.
much. But.
No.
But yeah, I'd like them to, and again, yeah, like, have you found that as you're getting older, like, you're thinking more about becoming more nostalgic, and that's kind of working its way into your songs, or is it just kind of how you've been feeling lately with everything?
I think it was more so how I was feeling when I wrote these songs. I'm trying to get away from that because I think the last two albums really covered that
Yeah.
theme. And even some friends, they were like, "Man, that's all you think about." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I got to figure out a way to be okay with that, and not just cling on to the past so much."
Well, and sometimes you come to that in your own time.
Yeah.
That's what I found. I've had periods in my life where I get really nostalgic. I think over the last year, especially because we've been just kind of stuck in this pandemic, and there hasn't been a lot to really do or people to see. So, but other times in my life, I haven't. I try not to think about it as much.
Yeah.
I understand. Well, and I also wanted to ask you a little bit about like one of your other songs, North of Detroit, which I thought is kind of the album closer, I think, if I recall. Yeah, which is a really good one. Again, like that one I really enjoyed because that kind of highlights, a little bit about the vivid imagery again and that sort of thing. So what was it like to kind of, again, is that kind of reflecting back and looking at growing up north of Detroit? Because I recall you grew up, in the, like Rochester Hills area, right? So like what kind of brought that song about?
The title was just, I grew up in Rochester, and whenever we went on trips with the family or, with anybody going out of town, and then when I moved to Jackson and Hawaii, I was just, people would say, "Where are you from?" And they'd say, "Oh, Rochester, it's a little town north of Detroit."
Mm-hmm.
And then I wasn't really sure what to call that one. And then I thought, oh, that lands and it works. But that was a song I wrote in my house in Hawaii. I think it was my first semester over there, and it wasn't a very good semester. I was just trying to settle in, and you have this dream in your head of what it's going to be like when you get to go over there. Because I was looking forward to it for years. I kind of had planned out I would go my junior year. And then wasn't meeting too many close friends, and I was like, man, I had some really good friends in Rochester area, and then not really getting close. So yeah, I wrote that one. I feel like I wrote it kind of both locations, which was funny.
Yeah.
But I was listening to a lot of Frontier Ruckus.
Matthew
Malia or Melia. Yeah, and he just has these awesome acoustic guitar driven songs, and where he's actually moving around on the neck and the guitar. So that one and Used to Be were definitely inspired by that band. I think when I before I flew over there, I asked John what recommendations he had, John Katona, and he said Frontier Ruckus. I was like, oh man, these guys are awesome.
That's a good one.
So yeah, I think you'll be able to kind of hear some similarities.
Yeah,
if you listen to
absolutely.
one of their
Yeah. Now that
records.
you mentioned that, yeah, I could definitely hear that, which I
Uh-huh.
think is very cool that inspired you. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy just has crazy detailed lyrics
no
too.
doubt. Yeah.
And it's like, man, if I can figure out ways to just use cool words and share a story, that's pretty interpretable, but still interesting.
Well, you're doing well with that. I hear that in a lot of your like all your songs. So
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it'd be great to hear North of Detroit too.
Sure.
I couldn't hold the cold care of everyone's hand. After that first record went up on Bandcamp, tedious TV shows and brief weeknight evenings will swallow up the daydreams in my first home. Backseat of the Suburban, sipping on something burning. Follow your family's fears of never learning. I never want to stay until Midwest winter winds from Windsor to Detroit, departing from my grasp. I laughed, crowdgrass lasts much longer here, but still where is the snow? Sunlight streams will steer through, hash in the fabric. Dreams will come to my mind as soon as the moon hits. Of every Friday night in my best friend's basement, I should have gone on more walks outside with my parents. Oh, I never want to stay until Midwest winter winds from Windsor to Detroit, departing from my grasp. A crowdgrass lasts much longer here, but still where is the snow? I'm sick of snow. Days last at first and move so fast. We hold on to bits of the past. I don't think that's so bad. Days last at first then move so fast. We hold on to bits of the past. I don't think that's so bad. There's something special about my nieces in the morning with their bad breath that had so sweet snoring that I sneak away adoring. Oh, soccer, cement, heater, beat feet, sun in the summer's eve. The dogs that weren't yet put to sleep these times, they keep me stuck between staying near or leaving here. Staying near or leaving here. I need thee Oh, I need thee. Every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come to thee.
Nice. I think like between Used to Be and North of Detroit, I think those are great ways to bookend the album. Just to kind of carry that nostalgic theme from start to
Yeah.
finish.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Absolutely. And like as you're writing these types of songs, do you have a certain like creative process you like to follow? Like do you start with music first or lyrics, or does it really just depend on how the inspiration comes?
I think actually the two songs I just played were the first that I wrote. Like guitar first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the first song, the first EP, a lot of it was me trying to write out feelings, and then see if I can find a tune I can sing those lyrics to, just like a C chord or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
real
yeah.
simple.
Right.
And then I was mentioning John a lot, but I told him that same thing, and he was like, "Oh, that's interesting because I always write music first and then lyric or vocals after and lyrics last."
Oh, okay.
And then when you think about that, I think people who are new to music probably write lyrics first.
Yeah, they
And
probably do.
and
Yeah.
those were the songs because I couldn't have played what I just played on guitar 4 or 5 years ago when I was writing that first EP.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So yeah, for these songs, I tried to write a little guitar lick and then see if I can make the song more interesting than just a couple chords.
Yeah, yeah. Just because I know the inspiration comes differently to people all the time. Like, or a lot of these songs, like, did you like kind of slowly build these over time, or did you have some that just came out like
Mm-hmm.
right away? I know sometimes some people say I sat down and I had one song that came out in like 20 minutes, or they had ones they worked on for like several weeks or maybe months, even maybe years. Yeah.
Yeah, people will say like sometimes it feels like the song is writing itself for you.
Yes. Yes.
And it's like 30 minutes and it's done. You're like, oh, I got another song. But yeah, those ones definitely were guitar first. And now sometimes I'll think of a real relatable lyric that's
Mhm.
still pretty detailed, and then I'll be like, oh man, I got to figure out a song I can just use that line.
Yes. Yeah.
So that'll kind of spark
Yeah.
something. And that's what I did for a lot of the songs on the record that'll be after Landlines.
Okay.
I have 10 or 11 songs I'm hoping to record this year. So hopefully those will be my best work yet. So I'm excited.
Now, were those some of the ones you wrote last year around this time in the pandemic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did have a productive time.
Yeah.
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 Well, and I wanted to ask you about another song that's not on the album, but that
Mhm.
you had shared with me, Miracles, and just kind of wanted to learn a little bit about that song. If it's not too, and if I understand correctly, this is about your late father.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of learn about, you mentioned you're from a musical family. How did your late father inspire you, like as a musician, as a person, If that's not too difficult to talk
no,
about.
sure.
If it is, I understand. So.
Yeah, I'll be all right. Yeah, he just played guitar for us growing up, as I mentioned earlier, and then the past few years he was just real supportive, and always asked every time I saw him, asked about my songs, what else I was working on, and he gave some pretty general advice, but he kind of said it like it was. I mean, he was real positive. It was sweet, but he kind of said it like it was advice that I needed to hear, which I did. But he just said, I think you should just keep doing it, because I'm working full time and I have some other things in life, but he always just said, I think you should just keep doing what you're doing, and something will happen. He always said, hey, I think you're one of the best songwriters to ever live.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So.
that will stay with you forever. I can imagine to hear
Yeah.
that from your father. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah,
Gosh.
so he was real supportive, and I think probably 10 or 15 years ago, probably 10 years ago, he recorded a CD of a bunch of cover songs.
Nice.
I gotta find that. He did it on just an old computer, probably with floppy disks and stuff like one of that time period.
Yeah.
And did a lot of cover songs, and just gave them to friends. But yeah, so he on like the real specific musical
Mhm.
or like maybe even music theory side, he wasn't super impactful there, but definitely like innately it was just a part of my life.
Yeah. Well, in this song, if I understand, kind of talks to me. It sounds like it kind of chronicles a journey of like a terminal illness. Is that like cancer or something? Is that kind of what this song is kind of getting into about? That's the impression I get. Someone that's been battling an illness and maybe in some of the last days of that at the time.
Yeah, he fought cancer for 20 years.
Oh wow.
He had it in 2000 and then kind of recovered, had surgery and treatment and got over it in 2005. And then I think we kind of say that there was 2005 to 2014 were some better years.
Yeah. That's okay.
And then it kind of returned, and he was battling, for the last 5 years, and passed away recently. But we were real thankful for the extra time that he
absolutely
that we got. A lot of doctors would come and say, hey, most people don't live for more than 5 years after the initial surgery that he had in 2000. And there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about the prayer of Hezekiah. And I know his pastor told him, you should try and pray this prayer and ask for 5 more years. So my mom did that, and he did that, and our family did in 2015 when he had surgery again. And he had 2 surgeries in 2015, and then he got those 5 more years.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Wow.
Which is a real blessing.
There's no doubt. Well, and I'm sorry for your loss. I lost my mother last year as well. So yeah.
I'm sorry.
She had Alzheimer's, so that was but I'm sorry for your loss too. So.
Yeah, but I started writing this one. My whole family was in the house, and it was pretty noisy because there's a bunch of kids running around.
Yeah, right.
I think I have 13 nieces and nephews.
You have more than me. I have right now 11 on one side and 1 on the other. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's just super crazy when there's 20 people in the house. And my dad was sitting across from me on the couch. And I kind of just started to play this little guitar lick and saved a voice memo, and there was some everybody chattering in the background.
Yeah.
Kind of took the guitar lick home later that week.
Yeah.
It was one of those songs that just came out right away.
Yeah, I could definitely hear that. I could hear the feeling and the passion in that one especially. So
yeah.
And would you be open to playing Miracles for us too as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can play that one.
Okay. Yeah.
This is a working title.
No problem. Yeah. We'll call it that tentatively for now. I understand.
I can feel it coming down, watching you try to rest now. When the doctor said to you that there would be no surgery, Christ is coming for you. For you. So you're okay with the news, and I wish that was not true. I can feel for you. I wasn't born long before it, when they split open your stomach. We flew to California, and they gave you 5 years to live. And you're still with us now, and I'm almost 24. So you're fine with the news, and I wish that was not true. But Dad, I feel for you. You're a miracle, clothed in marigold, safe inside his fold, close with the angels, walking streets of gold. You're our miracle. You're our miracle. You're our miracle.
Thank you for sharing that song. I can imagine, how personal it is. So thank you. I think that song will bring people a lot of comfort when they've lost someone or someone going through.
Thank you.
Yeah. It gives me a lot of comfort hearing that as I thought about my mom, even though I know you're singing about your father. But yeah. So
that means a lot. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for sharing that, because that's the kind of stuff. When I lost my mom, I had to listen to a lot of music. It's only been like 10 months. Yeah. So, but well, I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about a couple other projects. So, like you mentioned John Katona earlier with Bird Fight, which I thought was a really cool project. That one kind of has more of an electronic sound with like sampling and all that. How did you guys decide to come to work on that project?
That one's really interesting. So, John started writing those songs about 10 or 12 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, yeah.
He made them all using samples, like real sound.
Yeah.
So he had a bunch of objects at his desk, and he had a cool piano, so he sampled every single note.
That's cool.
And just arranged these. He arranged the whole song. He sampled real notes and then wrote the music on his computer, for like shaping chords and figuring out a way to make drum beats out of pens and cigar cutters and
really unique sounds.
Yeah. Super interesting. And then he showed it to me, I think fall of 2017. He was like, "Hey, I have this EP and it's like 10 years old." He was like, "Do you want to sing on it?" And I was like, "Oh, definitely." Because I just wanted to do more music. So he sent me the songs, and they were still in the same place they were when he finished them 10 years ago. So he was like, "Man, I've gotten way better at music production." And he started revising the mixes and boosting some sounds and putting them in different places sonically. And yeah, so I came home on Christmas break from school in Hawaii and kind of started singing just some oohs and ahs and said like, "Oh, maybe these can be, I don't have many lyrics, but maybe these can be the lead melodies." And he was like, "Yeah, that's awesome." And he liked it. So then we ended up keeping some of those vocals as background vocals, and some of them I replaced with lyrics later on. And then two or 3 years go by, which is funny, and I worked on them a little bit in the summers, and then I think I finished them the Christmas before I graduated, so that was December or January of 2019, or December 2018 or January 2019, and they sat for another year and a half. And he was like, he was busy. He works full time as an engineer, and then pandemic hit, and we all had more time.
Right.
So he finished them. I ended up coming back and like putting lyrics and vocals on them that December before I graduated. Just more stories of stuff I was going through. Like I mentioned, all the drama and things that happen in college when you're surrounded by a bunch of people your age.
Yes.
But then we weren't sure how to put it out, and he just writes a bunch of music and doesn't release much of it. He'll release other people's stuff he works on. So we were like, well, what do we do to figure it out? So we tried a performance video of playing this song with 100 different tracks live with just 2 people.
Nice.
So there's some performance videos on YouTube that we filmed, and then we finally put it out in March or February.
Yeah, just recently, right? Yeah, Hug Shake, right? Ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So then he turned his house into a studio.
Nice.
and he calls it more of a studio home than a home studio.
Home
'cause
studio. I like that studio home.
Yeah, it's I mean, state of the art.
Nice.
Got some very good equipment. So he's getting ready to launch the studio, and we have some videos out with other Detroit bands now. So
Nice.
It's called Bird Fight Presents.
Yes, I think I saw a couple of those videos on there before. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so we're trying to do like a tiny desk.
Yes.
Type
Yeah.
thing there.
Yeah. No. Good stuff.
So that's been really cool. Yeah, it was a fun project to release, and we're continuing to write music, and it's gonna sound a lot different because it's made in 2021 instead of 2009.
Yeah, but you can't. I wouldn't have known that unless you told me. Just because I like the fact that it kind of diversifies your, like your songwriting and your style is kind of like against the electronic sampling backdrop.
Yeah.
I really like that too. I think that was a nice compliment in addition to what you're doing through Landlines.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. Good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say I look forward to hearing more from Bird Fight.
Cool.
And I also wanted to talk briefly. I wanted to give a shout out to Old Main Records because I'm a big fan of what they're doing. And I know they've involved you in some different collaborative projects and all that. How have they been helpful to you throughout, kind of your musical journey recently?
Yeah, those guys are great. Chris and Pat.
Yep.
I've worked with a little bit. I mean, Chris just really grinds, and he's you see all these events by Old Main, and
all the time. Yeah.
I was on an email thread for a Q&A and performance we're doing pretty soon, and I saw the guy who emailed me said the student ambassadors are CC'd, and then it was only Chris's name, and I was like, I imagine that this guy is doing all this. So yeah, but definitely just somebody to turn to when I'm looking for some advice, and then he's always just saying, hey, did you see this? Here's an opportunity. Maybe you can reach out to this person. I'm like, yeah, man, that's great. Thanks. I know, yeah, they want to get me pressed for this release, and
nice.
Just some ways that they just want to find a way to get it to as many ears as possible. So
when I heard like Chris and Patrick and Brendan and a bunch of those guys were starting at it, just not only like a year and a half or so ago, I was really excited to hear like what they were doing to help out a lot of the DIY artists on the scene. So
yeah,
I really like what those guys are doing. There's so many great artists that I've come across through them, and like just cheers to them for what they're doing.
Yeah, Brendan too. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I was working with him a lot a year ago when we were talking about releasing this project.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been delays, but yeah, all of them are really hard workers, and I really hope they find some jobs in the music industry.
Yes, they deserve. Yes, they deserve it too for all the good things they're doing to help out the scene. So yeah. But lastly, I just want to know, so what's next for you coming up? You got, again, Landlines coming out April 30th on all streaming platforms. Want to mention that.
Yeah.
But with that coming out, do you have plans for like a live stream release show or any in-person outdoor shows coming up? What's next for you then?
Yeah, I think we'll probably hold off. We're doing a Q&A and little acoustic performance of just one or two songs with Old Main this month. I think.
Nice.
I think by the time this gets out,
yes, by the time this will come out.
Yeah, might already be released, but and then hopefully a outdoor show in let's see, hopefully June or July.
Yeah.
I feel like it's doable. We'll see though.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, then just recording some more music. Trying to find would love to get into a festival in the next 2 years, a year or two. I just listened to an awesome panel from Michigan Music Alliance. I'm sure you're familiar with them. Just talking about things artists can do to get into festivals and what it's like to plan a festival. Just learning a lot. And then, I'm working a lot on Bird Fight Presents.
Cool. Getting
more artists to perform. So if anybody's hearing this and wants some live video, just reach out to me or John. And working with Tom Mahalis, the guy who produced half these songs, and John with the studio is another big thing I'm involved with. And I have about 10 or 12 songs that were written in the past year that I'm hoping to put out in LP and
cool.
Do vinyl, hopefully.
Vinyl would be cool. I'll get a vinyl for you.
Cool. Yeah, big investment, but I'll probably record those at John's. He's calling it JK Not Kidding Studios.
Nice.
Yeah, but I think that's mostly what I have in the future.
Nice. Well, lots of exciting stuff coming up, and I'm glad to hear you have so much more new music in the pipeline too.
Yeah.
Again, congrats on the upcoming release of Landlines. I think people will really enjoy the album, and I look forward to hearing more. And then, would love to see if you do any outdoor shows coming up this summer. Would love to come see you and get a chance to check that out. So Again, thanks for joining me. This is Christian Ohly of Ohly, and this is Lori Stratton from the Stratton Setlist podcast at Grove Studios. Have a good one.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.